Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me in every corner of this building? I have a loud mouth, so that typically is not a problem for me. In fact, it's a problem for the front row, but it's not for the back row. So I have a confession to make. I am a gold digger. Yes, I am a gold digger. And probably so are you, right? Or you probably wouldn't be here if you weren't a goal-setting gold digger. So I have a goal to lead millions, yes, millions, to discover their purpose or their why. And I don't know if you guys keep looking at that, I'm like, what is up there? I don't know if at the bottom of your Dear Future Me letter that we're going to talk about later, it has a quote from Mark Twain, who said, the two most important days of our life are the day we were born and the day we discovered why, right? So USA Today did a poll. And you know, their distribution is internationally, but they did a poll and they asked millions of people, if you could ask God one question, what would it be? And by far the number one response was, why am I here? What is my purpose? So if you don't know your purpose, you're not alone. You are in a very big crowd. Do you know where the wealthiest places on planet Earth are? Some people say Dubai, some people say the diamond fields of Africa, some people say in our country New York City or San Francisco Bay. But actually, the wealthiest place on planet Earth are cemeteries. And I know that's quite morbid, but if you think about it, there are dreams that are buried that were never fulfilled, books never written, speeches never given, jobs never applied for, right? So we don't want to fall into that category. How many of you feel like on most days you're traveling at about 100 miles an hour? Anybody? Show of hands? Yeah? Let me ask you this. What if, just what if, you were going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction? How fast and far would you get away from your goals and your purpose if that was happening? You will get there very fast and you will get very far. So when I tell people about my goal to lead millions to discover their why, it doesn't matter if it's in an audience of people that I'm about to meet for the first time or people that I know or colleagues, or it could be a stranger sitting next to me on the plane. It doesn't matter who I tell that to, the response has 100% always been the same. I don't know my purpose. And they always add their age. I don't know if that's for some, like an exclamation point. I'm 35, I still don't know my goal. I'm 75, I had a woman tell me before, and I still don't know my goal. And everywhere in between. So that's exactly why I wrote my book, Untie Every Knot. Discover what knots are causing you to miss out, chicken out, or be counted out. And I use a little play on the word knot, but I'm really talking about little k, big N-O-T. And as the conversation goes on and with people who tell me they don't know what their purpose or their why is, we have this evolution of conversation where they first tell me they don't know why, and then they start kind of reminiscing about what they could have done and what they should have done and why they could have done it. And then it slowly transitions into regret. Like, I so should have done that. And now that I know all this, I so could have done that. And we all know that as coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? People have heard those excuses for eons. So I know that Cornell University did a study that they called the Legacy Project, where they surveyed 1,000 older Americans. Now we're talking older Americans, 80s, 90s, early 100s. And they asked them, if you were to look back on your life, what is your number one regret? And they thought for certain they would hear things like marital affair, bad business deal, or addiction. But oh no. The number one response was they wish they wouldn't have wasted so much time worrying. Worrying. You know, research shows that over 90% of what we worry about never happens. And sometimes that's not good that it doesn't happen, because worry is another word for fear. Right? We fear that we wouldn't be able to do that. Here come the knots. We couldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. We fear. And what we really are fearing is failure. And how many by a show of hands would agree that you've learned a lot more by failing at something than you did at succeeding? Yeah? I've learned my best lessons from failure. So I always would tell my children that it's not failure if you learn something. What can you learn and grow and become better from? And then it's not a failure. It was a learning experience. So tonight I want to talk to you about 3 things. I want to talk to you about working or living or really playing to your strengths. I want to talk about 2, your circle of influence or your circle of friends. And third, I want to talk to you about your plan with you, your goals. And we're going to do a rapid fire workshop. And you're going to walk away with a set of goals. You're going to write yourself a letter. We're going to do some community goals. It's going to be fun, but it's going to be fast and furious. So I know all of you guys are overachievers, so you don't like things to drag on, right? So you're good to go with moving fast. So I'm going to spend a lot of time tonight on the strengths portion. On the strengths, because I feel like this alone will be worth 10 times more of the investment that you made in even coming here tonight, by getting your head around your strengths. So I have always operated under focusing on our strengths, my kids' strengths, and not weaknesses. We would celebrate A's and B's, and we wouldn't spend a ton of time on D's and C's because they would be grounded for so long. No, and I'm just teasing. But we would celebrate what they're strong in. I believe that the old cliche, high tide raises all boats, applies to this as well. So as we get better and better at our strengths, it kind of brings our weaknesses up and they start being less weak. But if you think about it, if we're going to laser focus on our weaknesses, all that's going to do is make us less bad at something. Who wants to be less bad? Don't you want to focus on your strengths and get better and better and better at your strengths? So that's why I want to talk to you tonight about strengths. Research shows, done by Marcus Buckingham Corporation, shows that when they surveyed just shy of 200,000 employees and asked them at work, do you have an opportunity to use your strengths every day? Okay? At work. Do you have the opportunity to use your strengths every day? Well, the answers were pretty sad because only 20% said yes. Only 2 out of 10. So if you have a table of 5, that's 1 of you. You know, table of 10, that's 2 of you. So it's not a lot. Now, fast forward, they went from 200,000 to over 2 million employees surveyed and asked the question, do you use your strengths at work every day? And the answer yet to yes went down. And now it's only at 17%. So the question for you is, how can you be a part of the 2 out of 10 that uses your strengths at work every single day? So first of all, you have to understand your strengths. And have you ever noticed, or maybe you've said it or coached someone, that when someone asks about your weaknesses, we all have this ability to turn it around, to be positive, right? Like, well, I'm just a perfectionist. Or like, I just care too much. How many have said that in a job interview? I'm a perfectionist. Tell me your weakness. Yeah, I have too. I've coached my children to do it. But really, we understand it, right? Because we don't want to look bad. We're not going to say, well, my weakness is I steal from my employer. I really like the pins and Post-its that y'all buy here. And so I have a problem with that. No. But what is interesting is that when you ask someone about their strengths, when they really could look good, honestly, they have a very hard time articulating what their strengths are. And so the number one, research shows, the number one answer to what are your strengths, are you ready for this? I like dealing with people. Yes, I do. I like dealing with people. Well, what is that? Well, what people? How do you deal with them? I mean, you deal with old people, young people. You like to deal with, prison people. You like to deal with patients. Are you serving them? Are you treating them? Like, what are you doing with the people? Because you have to have an understanding that you have to describe your strengths in that way if you're going to be in the 2 out of 10 that are using your strength every single day. So the good news is it's not as hard as it seems. And actually, at the end of the workshop today, I'm going to give you a QR code to take a complimentary online assessment of your strengths. So no one will have an excuse to not know their strengths. And when I do leadership coaching, that's the first thing we do. And then on our monthly call, that's the first thing we talk about was what percentage of time did you use your strength over the last month? And they have to log it daily until it becomes so hardwired in. Now, some of us aren't in a job right now where we can use our strengths. But by goodness, we can learn what our strengths are. We can be working our way from our day job to our dream job every single day, right? It takes planning. We've all been there where we're not working our dream job. So the good news is you can uncover your strengths just by really looking at 3 things. So if you were to pull out your calendar from last week and looked at all that you did, the first sign is very obvious. But you have to pay attention to it because it's become vanilla to you probably. It's that you look forward to doing it. It's something at work that you look forward to doing. Maybe you even volunteer for it. It's not even part of your job, but it's something that you love to do so much that you volunteer for it. That's one sign. Second is that you're inquisitive about it. So look at the things that you did last week and what was an activity that you could stay laser focused in? You didn't even look at the clock. Like 2 hours went by and you're like, dang, where did those 2 hours go? You don't have to focus. You don't reread the same line 15 times. You're just so in the zone with them. Were there any activities like that last week? And then the third clue is your strengths have this restorative, invigorating quality that when you're done, you may be physically tired, but you're not psychologically tired. You're not spent. It didn't just suck the life out of you. In fact, it fulfilled you so much that that's why we want to keep doing that over and over again. But you see, we get so busy doing our stuff, whatever that is, every day, morning till night, start all over again, Groundhog's Day. And you guys know what that movie is, Groundhog's Day, where they keep doing the same thing. Okay, so look back last week and look for those 3 signs, things you looked forward to, activities that you stayed in the moment, and things that left you feeling awesome and strong. For me, if I was to look back on my schedule, just to give you an idea, I love speaking to audiences when I have a great message to deliver, when I think it's going to be impactful. I like working with organizations and leaders who have a genuine desire to be better, do better, and frankly, change the world. I like when they're transparent. They talk about the good, bad, and ugly of what's going on. That's why I started the podcast, the leadership podcast. I interviewed a CEO who was a CEO, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with bed size, but it's a hospital the size of Barnes Hospital in New Mexico. And he was chugging along doing a great job, and all of a sudden he gets fired. He even had a great performance evaluation not that long ago. But nobody in that organization above him knew how to have crucial conversations about what's happening and what's not. That's worth the price of admission today too. Make sure you know what a crucial conversation is and you know how to have them. That will separate you from the majority of leaders across every industry. So the third thing that I like to do, I like researching and gathering information and stories because I believe stories stick, but facts fail. Right? So they're just forgetful. We don't remember we lost $100 million last year. But I can say, I can reframe it and put it in a way that people can understand that based on a story. For example, I used to work for BJC Health System when TWA was still in town. We started a medical group of all doctors across all the 9 hospitals at that time. So there were some months that we lost more money than TWA, a whole airline. Well, that's how much money we lost. So people understand that. If I said, I'm losing $100,000 per doctor per year, people are like, yeah, 1, 2, 3, how many you got? But if I say, same as TWA, so stories stick, facts fade. All right? So here is something that if you have dozed off or daydreaming or on your phone, this is what I want you to know for sure. A strength is an activity that makes you feel strong. That's a strength. And that may surprise you because we used to think, well, a strength is something we're good at and a weakness is something we're bad at. And there is something to that, but that's not everything. And we can't get stuck just on that definition. That just leaves too much stuff open. So you don't want to know what you're good at and what you're bad at. That was an outcome. That's the past. We want to move on into the future and understand things like what strengths can we turn to on a bad day, where you can just bury yourself in and just dive in and just feel so fulfilled. Which strengths can you count on to really deliver regardless of your situation or circumstances? And which strengths make you feel so creative? It's like you change into another person. You can just come up with all these crazy ideas. And which strengths basically will sustain you and fulfill you? So we have to get rid of the old definition. So there are several things, for example, that I'm good at, if I could toot my own horn. I'm good at cleaning. I'm a very good cleaner. I'm good at laundry. I am good at organizing. I am good at cooking. I'm actually a good cook. I don't like doing any of those things. They are completely done out of necessity. But are you saying that just because I'm good at it, those are my strengths? And so that's what I need to do full time? Be a cleaner or an organizer or a cook? I might as well just die right now because that's what it would be like for me every day, like Groundhog's Day in hell. But we have to think about what we're strong at that leave us fulfilled. So let's talk about what we're good at or what we're not good at but we enjoy. Anybody have something? Golf. For me, it's singing. I love to sing, but I'm not good at it. So what do we call that? We call that a hobby. If you go out there and just hit balls or whatever your sport is, that's a hobby. So we have to find something that we're good at and that we also enjoy. That's where you intersect and you start understanding where your strengths are. So pay attention to that. So one question is what activities you're drawn to that you won't get better at, and put that in the hobby bucket, and just understand where things fit. If you start bucketing them, you can understand your strengths will start ringing through, shouting through so loudly. So if your strengths mean it's an activity that makes you feel strong, what comes to mind for any of you? Do things just start popping in your mind? Is this starting to almost bring some clarity already for anyone? You guys are a quiet crowd tonight. Well, the one good thing about your strength is you don't need anyone to tell you what it is. You don't need an HR director, a boss, a spouse, a coach, a teacher. You know where you feel strong. And you also know things that you love doing. So no one also can tell you, no, you don't. You don't love that. You can't tell me that. So we've got to stop relying on people. In the old ways, that's what we did. We relied on other people, even parents, to say, wow, you're really good at that. Maybe that's something you want. But how many times have we pigeonholed even a child or a friend to say, you're good at that, thinking that that's their strength? But that is a false definition that we need to get away from. So trust in this. Look for the telltale signs. Look at your schedule from last week and go through those. So the second thing I want to talk to you about is your circle of friends or your circle of people or your circle of influence, whatever we want to call it. I know that growing up, my mother always said, you are who you hang with. I could tell who my kids had been hanging out with when they came home based on how they behaved, good or not so good. I used to squeeze the ugly out of them sometimes. But there are a million quotes, like show me your friends and I'll show you your future. There are so many great quotes around this. If any of you are Jesus followers, there is a great story in Mark that talks about friends who took this paralyzed guy to Jesus. And Jesus said, because of your friend's faith, I'm going to heal you. That's the kind of circle you want to be in. And so many people think that as adults, we really don't have to worry about that. We can guard ourselves, unlike we would warn our children, our friends, our kid, brother, or sister. That's not true. It gets off on you. The late, great Jim Rohn said we're the average of the 5 people that we hang with the most. So think about your surroundings. You know, in Proverbs, it says, walk with the wise and become wise, associate with fools and get in trouble. So it's important. So proximity is power. And these are just 5 quick tips that you can see each start with an action word on making sure that you are surrounding yourself with excellence. Number 1, surround yourself with greatness. Number 2, let go of negative relationships. Some people we have to love from afar. And that has set, that little thing has set so many people free thinking, oh, I thought since they were my fill in the blank, niece, nephew, what I needed to keep them close to me. No, you don't. You can love people from afar. Let go of negative relationships. That'll help give room for the positive. Identify positive people. Who feels so much better after they're around a positive person? You just feel uplifted, like you took some adrenaline pill, or you took something illegal, but it was legal because it was just another positive person. You know, join a professional group. This is an awesome group. Getting to know Sam and Alex has been unbelievable. I was telling Lindsay earlier, it's like, I love hanging with this young passion and energy. You know, so many times, are you guys both millennials? Millennials get such a bad rap. I love millennials because my children are millennials, and millennials love their parents. But you guys are so driven. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. And I love Alex. Where are you, Alex? I love one thing that she said, like, I don't want to be around people that tell me I'd set limits on me. Like, no, you're doing too much. I want people to tell me how I can do it all. And I agree. I like to be around those kind of people too. Which reminds me about mentorship. How many of you, by a show of hands, have a coach or a mentor that you meet with on a regular cadence? Raise your hand. Awesome. So about a table's worth. So part of your assignment tonight is to find a coach or a mentor and within the next 48 hours and ask them if they will start meeting with you on a monthly basis for coffee or dinner or golf or swimming or laying out. I mean, it doesn't always have to be this formal across the table office thing. It can be while you're having fun. Our company starts physician mentorship programs up in large health systems. Physicians who have been in training, some of them are 60 years old and are just relocating across I was going to say planet, but they're not, just the country. But everyone needs mentorship. It's like a buddy system. It's not another teacher necessarily. It's someone that's helping hold you accountable. It's someone that's keeping you, raising the bar, challenging you month over month, and not just listening to your blah, 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 your excuses on, we have an excuse bucket in the office. Like, that sounds like something that needs to go in the bucket. So there's so many people that make excuses, so you need an accountable partner that'll call the baloney word on you if need be. So several years ago, I read Atul Gawande is a general surgeon who is a New York Times best-selling author. And he wrote a piece for the New York Times called Personal Best. And he told the story about how he left the operating room and he's driving home and he's at the top of his game. He's like, oh man, I'm like soaring high right now. And then he thought, well, there's only one place to go when you're up this high. And so as he's approaching the interstate, he sees this country club, and he played tennis in high school. He thought, I'm going to just stop and hit some balls. So he asked the pro if he wanted to hit some balls with him, and the pro said, well, you can hire me, and I'll be happy to hit some balls with you. So they're out playing, and immediately the pro tells him how to improve his swing. That improves his game immediately. And so he's driving home, and he's reflecting, thinking, wow, you know what? That's interesting. Like, athletes all have coaches, and entertainers mostly have coaches. Like, why don't doctors and other professionals? So he went and found what they call the chief resident who trained him in school, who was then retired, and asked if he would come to the operating room and just observe him and see if he could do anything better, just like the pro did. And he did. And immediately, he was in the OR and he was sitting in the corner. And right before the patient went out, the patient said, "Who's that guy in the corner?" And the doctor goes, "He's my coach." And then they knocked him out. So he was probably having nightmares. He's like, "Coach, he doesn't even know what he's doing." But anyway, after the surgery, they went to the doctor's lounge, and his former teacher said, "Atul, get your arm down. Like, you're wasting too much energy keeping your hands high when you're operating." He said, "Get that light over there for you. Get it. You've got the position for your first assist. You're the surgeon." So just in that 20-minute surgery, he was able to coach or recommend some improvements for a surgeon who was on top of his game. So don't we all want to be on top of our game? Yes. Good answer. So hire a coach or get a coach. Maybe you don't have to pay one. I have had many coaches that I've paid for. I had a book coach to help me cross the finish line with that book. She helped, I knew exactly how many words I had to write every Saturday to meet my goal, and she kept me like online. That's what you need. So sometimes you have a coach for a season, because it's on something special that you're trying to do. You want to run a marathon by whatever, November. So you're going to get someone to coach you along there. So it doesn't have to be a coach for life. And when you ask someone to coach or mentor you, be very clear about what your expectations are. And in your packet, there's actually a mentee and a mentor roles. It's like a job description, but we call it a role description. It talks about how both you and your coach or mentor have roles and responsibilities. It's not just a one way, it's both ways. Okay? And I do know that for some people, you may have limited bandwidth. You want to stay innovative. You want to stay on top of your game, but you don't really have the resources or the budget right now to hire someone to walk alongside you. So we have limitations, and I just want to remind you that sometimes we are the innovator and sometimes we are the imitator, and that's okay. If there is someone in the space that you're interested in that is doing a great job, look at what they're doing. I'm not the one that always says, call them up and ask them to have a cup of coffee, because I tell a story in my book about I had a coach who was a book promotion coach. Not like didn't tell me how to speak, but told me how to speak about my book, because now in the business, your book is your calling card, is your business card. It's no longer like, yeah, I'm the president of a company. Yeah, well, you got a book? Okay, now I do. Now I have a book. So I was just following the rules of the game. But anyway, she told me a story that she was speaking at a national conference once. This is my speaking book coach. And somebody at the St. Louis Business Journal got a hold of her story and published it in the Business Journal. When she got home, her voicemail was full with people that said, "Hey, Lois, I want to speak. I want to be a professional speaker. Can I take you out for coffee? Can I take you to dinner? Can I blah, blah, blah?" Well, she called them all back and said, "I can't, but if you go to my website, you can download a $10 CD and all the questions you could possibly ask me right there." Guess how many downloaded it? 4 people. They were willing to spend $20 on or more on coffee or dinner or whatever, but they wouldn't go download. People want to be spoon-fed. Like, let me just tell you from across the table how I got so rich and famous. It's like, no, listen to the CD, and then you can listen to it over and over, and like, what did she say? And you replay it again and again and again. But sometimes we think that a person has to be right in front of me for me to download all that I need downloaded. No, there are ways for free that you can figure things out, and you can do the imitation versus the innovation, all right? And last, we're going to talk about a plan, and this is where we're going to end up transitioning into the workshop piece. We've heard many cliches about planning and the importance of planning. One of our workshops, instead of doing goals, we did vision boards. Has anyone ever done a vision board? They are so stinking fun. So you just cut out all the things you want to see. If you want to run a marathon, if you want to build a pool, if you want to, and you're literally gluing these pictures onto this board. So every day, all year long, you're looking at this vision board. Well, I just spoke at a conference a couple weeks ago in Atlanta, and a lady that was there came up and said, I was at your workshop and we did that vision board. Every single thing on my board I accomplished that year. I'm like, cool, what about the next year? She's like, well, I kind of fell off the wagon. Not only did she not do a vision board, she didn't even write down her goals, so she hit nothing. So it seems like it's so basic to say write your goals down and put a time stamp by them. I'm telling you, goals work. I wouldn't have written a book. I wouldn't have started a company. I wouldn't have fill in the blank with a million different things without having goals looking at me and screaming at me every single day. So another saying is you're always one decision away from a totally different life. You writing down your goals. How many of you have your goals written down, time-bound, measurable, attainable? Awesome. Another table full. So we have some opportunity. And we have opportunity to revisit our goals on a frequent basis. And what goal planning or setting your goals does is it brings the future into the present. So you can do something about it right now. Let's stop talking about it and let's start doing it and getting someone to help hold us accountable. So here's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to have some rapid fire, and I do mean rapid fire, and we have a timer on here, so hopefully all your juices are flowing tonight. But we are going to create a personal and a professional goal. And if you have time, you're also going to write down a community goal, something and that can be whatever you think it is, whatever that comes to mind. But we'll keep talking about this for 1 second. Then we're going to do that for 10 minutes. Then we're going to collaborate as a table, and we're going to create we're going to kind of think about what in-crowd can do for you to help you achieve your personal and professional goal. How cool is that? Because there is some serious brain power here that you guys can think about things that has not even been thought of that is going to be like earth-shattering. And then we're going to present. Each table is going to identify a spokesperson who is going to share all these golden nuggets that you're going to come up with. All right, so we're going to start here with the goals. Now, before you start, let me walk through what's in front of you. So you have in front of you, the top part was a Dear Future Me letter. You're going to transfer from your goal sheet over to that Dear Future Me letter and wait to stuff the envelope with it until the end of the session tonight, because you may come up with some other things you want to tell yourself. And you're going to address that envelope and put it in there, and then there's a mailbox on the table in the back. Now, on your goals, we're going to have 10 minutes. So this is generally something we take a couple, 2 or 3 hours doing. So that's why we're only going to do one personal, one professional, one community. Now, here's what we're going to do. If you do not know what your strength is, that you feel like you can find out something like unbelievable by taking that assessment, maybe that's your goal. Maybe your goal is to take the assessment within the next 24 or 48 hours, or by Monday morning, whatever, or by midnight tonight. And maybe another goal is to start tracking how much every single day at work you're using that strength. You're going to find it interesting what the strengths are, because it's not going to say you're a decorator, you like to work on cars. It's going to be a lot deeper than that, but it's going to give you a lot of definition around it, which is so, so awesome.